Welcome back to the channel, Mind of OPEX. Let's dive into it. Let's talk about something philosophical. Let's dive into it. So there's this idea that I keep hearing about. I've been hearing about this for about 10 years, and it comes from the Christian community. Now, I understand where they're coming from, but it is not logical. It's not actually rational. And we have to talk about it because I see this everywhere. My brother's been arguing with me for the last 3-4 weeks about this. And I'm like, we got to actually talk about it. Because people come to conclusions not based on reality or facts, but based on what they believe in themselves. And I'll get to those reasonings why. I want to talk about objective morality. Whoa, what the fuck is that, OPEX? Some of you guys may think about this how the Christians do, which is crazy that Christians believe it like this, but I understand where it comes from. Or you not believe in it, like I don't. I don't believe in objective morality. So let's define this. This is me basically debunking objective morality. I think it's an oxymoron. I don't think so. Objective would be like the truth. I don't think your morality is the truth. I think it's kind of stupid to intermingle those. That's like saying, I have a sharp, dull blade. Is it sharp or dull? Some parts are sharp, some parts are dull. That's why I call it that. Okay. That would make sense as an oxymoron in some sense. But objective morality. So your morals would have to be objective, meaning the truth. Now, I'm somebody who believes in truth claims. You can definitely make a claim towards the truth. There is an objective morality, there is not objective morality. There's an objective truth. 100% agree with that. So let's talk about it. We're at a crime scene, and at the crime scene, we have evidence, data, right? We have blood samples, we have evidence, right? Like shells from the firearm to whatever, right? We have the evidence. We can use that data to come up with using that truth to try to figure out and use detective work to analyze and judge someone's behavior and what actually went down. Right? So we use objective data to figure out reality. So philosophy, so my favorite thing in life is moral philosophy. I think it's the greatest thing ever. I think it helps us to figure out what's right, what we ought to do, right? And I don't think it's defined. I don't think it's objective. I think it's undefined. I think morality is based upon what gives you specific morality, which is unique to you, that's why it's subjective, would be your environment and your experience. Those two things will define or help you define your morality. Right? You saying this is right or wrong is up for debate, no matter how extreme and obvious or the mass majority believe it to be true. So Christians generally believe in objective morality. Christians and Muslims are pretty much the only ones that believe in this. Other than that, we have what's known as philosophy, where we can figure out what is morally right or wrong. And it is up to the interpretation. And of course, there's 1,000 variables that will definitely alter morality. So, how fucking far do we want to get into this? This could be a 10-hour video. I'm not going to be able to try to make this short as much as I try, but I'll make it as short as I can. So, let's talk about it. Christians believe in objective morality, which means that it comes from God. Your morality comes from God. And I don't believe that to be true. I don't believe God has objective morality. I believe he has morality. Right? So this would be somebody that would believe in God, that believe God has morals. What Christians want to say is, no, God does not have morals. He is morality. And that's where I'm like, oh my God, what are we talking about? God is morality. It's like these Christians like to say God is love. Okay. If God is morality, and we can all agree that I have morality, we all have different levels of morality. In fact, everyone agrees morality is subjective, but they want to add that objectivity on it, that it's a truth. Okay. If God is morality, which I don't believe, I believe he has morals, but if God is morality, and I have morality in me, that means God is in me, and therefore I don't have to think for myself anymore. Right? I don't have to make decisions. It's all instilled in me. It's in me. God is in me. Well, and then the Christians want to go, oh, well, God isn't in you like that. And I'd be like, okay, I agree with the Holy Spirit's in you. But the Holy Spirit can help you in situations, sometimes even with morality. I even agree with that as a philosophical man. Because I have the Holy Spirit, and it has guided me out of problems. And sometimes it can help with your morality in some instances. But your morality and that Holy Spirit are two different things. And I think every Christian would agree. Where we differentiate is that you say God is morality. Makes no sense to me, but using that logic, if I have morality in me, that means that's God. So let's stop even calling it morality. God's in me. And it's the compass, the light, the way. Okay, how does an atheist have morality? Well, does atheists have God in them? They're atheists. They don't even believe in it. So, to me, it makes no sense. This whole thing makes no sense, and the only reason I'm making a video about this is because there's a huge bunch of Christians out there, a huge, gigantic bunch of them, that just can't think logically in this scenario. So, I've seen videos where a Christian or a pastor debates an atheist, because this is the general debate. Atheists don't believe in objective reality, but Christians do. And I agree with that. That's the general gist. But not every Christian, and this is what they failed to understand, believes in this bullshit, because this is like Santa Claus, believing in Santa Claus. It just doesn't exist. And an atheist, some of them do believe in objective reality, or morals, objective morality. I'm trying to get through this. This could be a very long video, so stick with me. Let me have a sip of coffee. So I see these pastors debating atheists on YouTube. And what pastors do is do these gotchas with extremes. And it just mind boggles me that these people can't stay consistent with their beliefs, which are always true. It's funny because this is how it generally goes. The pastor asks, do you believe in God? No. Do you believe in morality? Yes. Do you believe in objective morality? No. I think it's subjective, which it is. They're saying the truth so far. And that is objective, that there is subjective morality. That's objective. You don't have to believe it to be true. It's true. We all agree it. And then they say the objective morality, which is an oxymoron, doesn't mean anything, doesn't exist. It's like, and then they say no, and they explain why. Well, no, because it doesn't exist. Morality doesn't exist outside of you, it exists inside of you. It doesn't exist in a rock, right? It exists in me, meaning subjective, and we all agree in that. And then the pastor would go, well, so you don't believe that there's any moral truths? And the person would say no. Okay, let me give you an example of a moral truth then. And let's see if you agree with it, is killing babies wrong? And then the person would be like, well, I think killing babies is wrong. And then the pastor would go, well, is it objectively true, or is there any circumstances where killing a baby would be objectively moral? And the person would be like, well, I don't believe in objective morality, so I don't think so. And then the pastor would be like, okay, let me give you another example. Maybe that didn't hit home for you. Is killing, like mass exterminating all the Jews, is that right or wrong? And then the person would be like, well, it's wrong. And the person would be like, well, is it universally wrong, or is there any circumstances that makes that a beautiful moral thing? And the person would be like, well, and be all confused about this, right? And this is the gotcha. They use these extremes to try to justify their stance. And as a Christian myself, I believe in Christ, I believe in God. I believe in them, but I don't believe in objective morality. This is where we differentiate. You think that there's a universal truth to morality when it's just universal. There's no actual truth claim that something could be wrong or right. So they do these gotchas. And this is where a lot of Christians are like, well, it's objectively wrong to murder babies or kill all the Jews. It's wrong, whether you believe in it or not. So they say that if you believe in it or not is an opinion, but there's an objective truth. And they do these gotchas. And the atheist, generally be an atheist, would be like, well, I guess there is an objective truth to morality. That there is no circumstance I can come up with that is okay to kill every single Jew on the planet or every single baby on the planet. And that is just the gotcha. I gotcha because that person's waiting for you to say something beautiful about the situation, something wonderful, and convince people that it could be right to do this thing. But the truth is, it's still subjective. It's in you. We can universally agree that it's wrong. But just because the mass majority agree that it's wrong doesn't make it right or wrong. And I think we can all agree on that. It doesn't say, well, once 51% of the population agrees with it, it becomes justified. It becomes right. That's not the case. I can say it's wrong, and they can say it's wrong. It doesn't mean it's wrong. Just like if I believe the earth is flat and you believe the earth is flat, it doesn't make the earth flat. And I think we all agree with it. So it doesn't matter that we agree. That actually doesn't matter. When you're talking about objectivity, because objectivity has nothing to do with the subject, but morality is all about the subject. It's all in here. We all agree in subject morality, but then we create, well, there's a higher standard with God. And I would agree that God's morality would trump ours. But God made us in His image, the same types of things like morality and stuff like that. But just because you're born doesn't give you objective reality. Again, environment and experience creates your subjective reality and molds it and conforms it and makes it to what it is. So when you're making a decision, let's go with a decision out there. Somebody pulls a gun to your head and says, give me your money. Now, your decision is based on knowledge, wisdom, and a lot of it has to do with morality. Would I be right because he put a gun to my head threatening my life? Can I pull out my gun and shoot him real quick? Could I kill him, or should I kill him? Ought I kill him in that scenario? That's why I love moral philosophy, because we can talk about the oughts. If we're talking about objective morality, there's nothing to talk about. It's already objective. There's nothing to talk about. There's no debate in oughts because it's already in us. It's already objective. The objective, which is truth, the truth is in us when it comes to morality, as these crazy people want you to believe. But I can imagine a world where people are separate. People have different moralities, and a lot of people don't solely function on morality. So how is it objective? If mine's different than yours, then we already agree that there's subjectivity. But you got to align yourself with morality. And morality, to these people, are saying that objective morality comes from God, and you should follow that, and that will get you more closer to truth. Now, these people want you to believe that the Bible's about morality, and they love to talk about the Ten Commandments, which any logical philosopher will just be like, it says it in its name. It's not altering your morality or aligning your morality to anything. In fact, when someone commands you on something, it has nothing to do with morality. But Christians are believe in it being morality, the Ten Commandments, because thou shalt not murder. Could murder affect could your morality depict whether you murder someone or not? Yes. But if you're commanded not to murder, then screw whatever you believe or feel. I'm commanding you not to do that. So it doesn't matter what your morality is. So why do these Christians bring up the Ten Commandments? Because if it was based on morality and trying to tell you what morality is, and this is objective morality, then it wouldn't be a commandment. It would be saying, well, in philosophy, we would give you reason, evidence, and rationality and logic, but there's none of that here. It's just commanding you not to do something. Now, what's great about moral philosophy is that I can talk to somebody and explain why I think murder is wrong. It affects your community. Everyone's stressed out. It leads to disease and famine and uncertainties and a million different things. Eye for an eye keeps the whole world blind, kind of thing, right? Like, I can explain why it's wrong, and that's what's great about philosophy. But you don't need to explain shit if there's objective morality, because we all innately already have it. We already have a moral compass that's aligned exactly like the other person to do or not do something. So, ought or not ought to do something. Now, the oughts are great because we can all agree or disagree on an ought. But if there's objective morality, there's nothing to disagree with. So these Christians on these gotcha things never want to touch gray area stuff. Gray area stuff would be like, let's say, I'm helping an older woman across the road. Right? Ought you help that old lady across the road? Or should you let her do it on her own? Well, there's an argument both ways. If you always have a crutch you're probably not going to be great at walking. But if you're always walking, you get better at it. If you're always in a wheelchair, you'll never walk. You'll never be better at walking. You're going to lose those muscles. You may create some disease or handicap that prevents you from ever walking. But I've seen these videos where this person was told he's never going to walk again, but just kept doing it and kept doing it and kept doing it. And now he walks like a normal person. So I'm not saying you should not help an old lady across the street, but there's an argument there. So my point is, that's a gray area. Should you or should you not? It's up to debate. And I believe moral philosophy is a healthy thing to argue on those points. So one point that my brother brought up was, if the purpose of life is to reproduce, I feel like it's morally responsible to rape a woman so I can have offspring. I think injecting my genetics is a good thing to have in the future. Because he believes that once you believe in subjective morality, that everything goes haywire, the world burns, and all that. But if somebody did believe that, I would argue against it. I'd be like, well, here's the reasons why you shouldn't rape someone. A, you're going to traumatize them. You're going to have an offspring or not. It's not guaranteed that you're going to have an offspring. Maybe she doesn't want to have that offspring. Rape is bad. It's going to destroy her health. It's going to mentally, physically, spiritually. It's going to hurt her in the long run. It's going to hurt how she raises that kid. She's not going to raise that kid to the best of abilities. And because you raped her, she's probably not going to want to stay with you, idiot. So you're not going to raise the kid with a father and a mother. I can go in all day of the cons to that scenario, all fucking day, why that's immoral, right? But in this subject's head, he can create a rationality and say how it can be moral. But that's what's great about moral philosophy. We can argue with each other. So what these Christians want to do is say that you can't argue with each other because that's just your opinion and your opinion doesn't matter. But what's great about moral philosophy is that we're all different and we can argue amongst each other what's right or wrong. So what these people do, these Christians, they say because there is no objective morality, that objective morality doesn't exist in these people's minds, that the world's going to go into chaos. So let me give you some ideas and examples of what they believe. There is no truth, therefore you just have an opinion. Therefore, if somebody's murdering someone, why would you stop it? You have no right to stop it, because even though you think it's wrong, you have no right to stop it, because they may have a moral compass saying that's okay. But that's retarded. Because they say, oh, that leads, your worldview leads to that logical conclusion that you have no right to stop anybody from doing anything immoral, because morals are just subjective and it's just an opinion. But then the question becomes, what's the difference between me or you? I'm a Christian who thinks it's wrong, but I don't believe in objective morality. If I see someone going to murder someone, most likely, in most scenarios, I will do my damnedest to stop it if I have the power to do so. Or rape, or insert any immoral action, right? So, he would say, well, you have no right to stop it. Only I do. You have no right. Why do you? Because you believe in Santa Claus? You believe in this thing that doesn't exist? You have no right. It's just an opinion. That's not an argument. Your argument should be an opinion. based on reason and evidence, evidence being the objective. And that's the difference here. When you're arguing something in philosophy, you use reason and evidence based on logic, rationality. But the problem is, these Christians think that I have no right to do so. I have no right to intervene. I have no right to do what's moral because I have an opinion that's moral. And that's so wrong. That's like saying, anyway, let's go to their scenario. They believe that they are right. They are justified in stopping them because there's a higher truth to the morality. So what is the difference here? The difference is that one believes in Santa Claus, one doesn't. So one gets the right to do something and one doesn't. That's how I look at it because objective morality doesn't exist. There are universal truths. There is universal morality. This just means the mass majority believe it to be true. The mass majority have aligned to that morality. Killing's wrong. We can pretty much, to the 98th percentile, maybe more, agree on that. But like I said in the beginning of the video, it's not about the mass majority. So I can make a universal claim, a truth claim. Asians are a smarter group of people. It's true. On average, they're smarter than, let's say, groups here. A Japanese man, a Japanese person is generally smarter, has more intelligence than, let's say, a sub-Saharan African person. Now, that's a universal truth. But is there variables, guys? Obviously. And there's variables in everything. To say a universal truth and not expect variables is retarded. So when I say Asian people, Chinese people are short, right? It's true. But it doesn't mean that Yao Ming can't exist. It does not mean that there are not variables. If I say Asians are short, it's true comparative to the rest of the world. Indians are taller. Africans are taller on average. Is there a Yao Ming that dwarfs all the Indians? Yeah, duh. They exist. But when I say a universal claim, like Asians are short, it doesn't mean that truth claim has no variables. So, what they say is that there's only truth claims without variables, which is true too. But when we're discussing morality, which we all agree it's subjective, but then you add the objective on it. If it's a truth claim to morality, there can't be a variable. And I would agree with that. If there was a truth claim for morality, there cannot be any variables. So, what these Christians do is say that, you know, they get right out of the gray area because that's kryptonite to them. They go straight to the extremes and try to get you in a gotcha. I want to murder all the Jews on the planet. Every single one of them wiped out. I don't want to see one left. And I think it's my moral obligation to do so. That is wrong, right? Well, that might be wrong to me. It might be wrong to 99 point whatever percent of people on this planet. It might be wrong. But to sit there and say there's no variable that can alter that is mind-boggling. Because I get it. I think it's wrong. But to say that in no circumstance is that right. Look, there are people out there saying depopulation's right. It is moral to lower the population of the planet. How you do so is a variable. I may agree in some variables of depopulation. I've always said, let's just take off all the warning labels and let nature take its course. But if you just want to say, is depopulation right or wrong, I would say it's wrong. Is it objectively true to be morally wrong? No. Nothing is objectively true to be morally wrong. Again, it doesn't matter what the mass majority say. This is a subject matter. Objective morality is an oxymoron. It doesn't make any sense. So when you're asking someone like me and try to do the gotcha, is killing the mass majority of people, 90% of the planet, wrong? I would say yes, that is wrong. That's morally wrong. Is there a scenario where it could be beautiful? And then they want to do the gotcha because if you say come up with something where it could be beautiful to kill 90% of the planet, wipe them out. If I even say anything, then I'm a bad person. I'm morally wrong. I'm going to hell, right? So let's even do it. Fuck it. I usually don't want to entertain these, but there's nothing for me to hide. I say it's objective morality doesn't exist. Is that wrong? Subjectively, I would say it's wrong. And then they would say, well, your opinion doesn't matter because there's no truth to it, or whatever they want to claim. Well, let's go into their reasoning, or they want to push, what can you come up with that could be beautifully moral about killing 90% of the population? Fuck it, let's do it. I say, if we got rid of 90% of the population, there'd be no more traffic jams. Oh God, that's not right. Okay, kill 90% of the population. I can come up with a few things. Of course, these aren't going to sound beautiful to some. Kill 90% of the population, we're probably going to reduce stress, workload, dictatorship, war. That's a good one. War. I think a lot of people would agree if we got rid of 90% of the population, there would be less war. Not everyone's going to agree with that there would be less war, but a lot of us could. And we can come up with, go down that scenario, that rabbit hole. So, do I think that killing people's wrong? Murder is wrong? Yes, I do. But to say there's nothing that you can ever do to make that justified morally, I would say you're wrong. And as much as that is a gotcha, you're actually evil, you're immoral, I said it was wrong. I'm not telling Bill Gates to continue with his agenda. I don't agree with Agenda 2021 or Agenda 2030. I don't agree with it. I don't agree with the Great Reset. I don't agree with it. I still actively fight against it. I use philosophy, which I believe will save and change the world, to combat the evils of the Bill Gates that want to wipe out the population. These people want to wipe out the population, and they're about 200 years behind on schedule. But anyway, So my point is, I don't have to believe in Santa Claus. I don't have to believe in objective morality to fight what I believe is wrong. And their argument is that everything goes into chaos if I don't believe in objective morality. Because it's just my opinion. Well, I can't feel strongly about my opinion. And then they say that you shouldn't do anything about it. But I want to do something about it. So what are you talking about? That doesn't make any sense right there. I want to do anything about it. Yeah, but you have no right. Because your morals aren't objectively true. Well, that's what's great about moral philosophy. We get down to the nitty-gritty about this stuff. It's my favorite topic. And the question then becomes, why wouldn't I do anything? One, they don't actually have an answer. They just say you have no right because of their subjective beliefs that I don't have right. And then they say to the logical conclusion of your worldview, which my worldview is, that's wrong. Killing the whole world's population is wrong. I believe it to be wrong, but because I don't believe it's objectively wrong, then I'm just going to go along with it. And that's not true. If I think something's wrong, I'm going to say it's wrong. I'm going to do something about it, just like I make all these videos. I tell you about the depopulation agenda. I try to help you with prepping and help you in every way I possibly can. So there's no surprise when it happens. Give you all the evidence, all the objective truths about it. So let's go into this idea, because they think that the world, just your worldview, means that everyone's going to get away with everything. And that's obviously not true, because I'm a blatant example of somebody that doesn't believe in objective morality. In fact, no one does, except if they're brainwashed. I mean, it's literally like believing in Santa Claus. It's fictional. So they want to say that the world's going to burn. I'm out here preventing that to happen. And I didn't have to believe in objective morality. So then the question becomes, if I'm not going to do anything about it because I have no right to, then the question comes, well, if my opinion doesn't matter, then I asked, for example, I asked my brother, we were having a little argument earlier today because he believes in objective morality. And I said my case, and he said, your opinion doesn't matter. Go watch my last video if you haven't already. The expert's opinion matters, but your opinion doesn't matter. And how I really debunked that there's no experts. That's all bullshit. It's bullshit. Your opinion does matter. You do have power in your opinion. But he says, your opinion doesn't matter. I don't care what your opinion is. I don't care what anyone's opinion is. I just want to know if it's objectively moral. Okay. President Biden has an opinion about nuking you. Doesn't matter. And he had nothing to say. He was, he has power. I'm like, okay, yeah. What power does he have that I don't? He can nuke you. Well, I can catch you in your sleep and put a knife to your neck and kill you. I can do that anytime I want. My opinion of that kind of fucking matters. And then the thing becomes, I have no moral obligation because it's not objectively moral. So I have no moral obligation. But I do. I have a moral obligation to deny and defy immoral laws. That's like my duty as a person. So yes, I believe in moral obligations, even though I don't believe in objective morality. I don't need to believe in Santa Claus to have a moral obligation. If I see a child about to be raped, I'm gonna beat the shit out of that dude trying to do that. Beat the shit out of him. Because it's in my morality to do so. I feel it in my heart. Every fiber of my being wants to kick the shit out of him, probably to death. Curb stomp him till he dies. Maybe even fucking pull even more immoral things and probably torture the individual. But my point is, I had a moral obligation to do so. Not everyone has that same moral obligation. Someone else might be like, can I get seconds on that kid? Some of y'all are like, I can't even believe you just said that. But there are people out there like that. So we know subjective morality exists. We can measure subjective morality. We can prove objectively that subject morality exists. Where's the objective morality? Where do you prove that exists? This is their only real evidence. It's the gotcha. You can't come up with a world where it's beautiful to rape that child. The extreme, no gray area. We all believe that to be immoral. But it's not what everyone believes to be true that makes it true. But they want to say morality is God. It is objective. Is God's morality true? And that's where they want to get you on these gotchas. So, I'm trying to explain. Hopefully we're not... Holy shit, we're 42 minutes into this. I can go another 5 hours. Oh my god. Alright. Let me think of a way to make this come to a close. Morals are subjective. Period. There is no objective morality. A lot of people hate when I do this, like my brother. But an objective thing would be something like you found something. A rock exists, right? Is it objectively true that that rock is there? Yes. We can see it. We can measure it. We can look at this in a lab. We can all agree on this being objectively true. Whether we agree in it or not, honestly, it would make it objectively true. It's an object in three-dimensional space and time that we can measure and prove. It's quote-unquote evidence. When I think of objectivity, I think of evidence. It's the truth. Your opinion on it doesn't matter. And what is your opinion? Your opinion's the subject. Where does your morals come from? Inside the subject. So your morals are just opinions. Yes, it's just opinions. Well, your opinions don't matter. That's your opinion. There's nothing objective about someone's opinion. Morality is based on your experience and your environment. Those two things, which alters your morality. And just because your morality says something doesn't mean you can't go out of that morality. You're not a robot. There are people that are like, oh, I know this is wrong, and still gonna do it. Your actions are only influenced by your morality. Influenced. If you think it's moral or not to do something, it doesn't make the action possible or not. The action still exists. You can still kill someone and know it was wrong. And I would come to the conclusion, most rapists, most of them, were morally felt wrong about the whole situation, especially afterward. They morally were like, oh my God, I did a no-no. I shouldn't have done that. That was wrong. That's where the morals are. Feeling of wrong based on environment and experience. I would say, I'm just throwing a number out there, 90% of all rapes from the subject who raped felt like it was morally wrong to do so, and still did it. There was a higher power in play, hormones, chemicals, the power of reproduction. Those trumped, there was something at least that trumped their morals. So we can't say, essentially, that morality is the governing factor. When God gave you the 10 Commandments, that was a law. A law. He didn't say, feel a certain way about this. No, he said, don't murder. Don't covet someone's wife. You don't do that. That's a law. That's a commandment. And it doesn't matter what your morals are. So that becomes a sin to go against the 10 Commandments in the Torah. A sin. God says, you sinned. Your morals had nothing to do with it. God said, this or you sinned. There's no ifs, ands, or buts. There's no morals that have to be changed in you to get closer to God's morals, which these people, a lot of these Christians, don't believe God has morals. They don't believe it. This could take forever. We're 50 minutes into this. Oh my God. I don't even know if I have enough room in my phone for this. But they say God is morality. God doesn't have morals. Well, I believe God has morality. I think God has changed his morality based on variables and circumstances. I don't think there's an objective morality. First off, I don't believe it exists. Second off, I don't see evidence of it. And I can still say, we can say something's universally right or wrong. Universally meaning the mass majority of us believe in it. That's what universally is. It doesn't mean it's right or wrong, because I wouldn't have to say universally. So, let's dive into it. I believe God has morals. I believe he makes decisions, and there's proof of this in the Bible. And if you're making decisions, that's based on, what did I say? And it's not always has something to do with morality, but in a lot of them, it does. So wisdom and knowledge and decision making, and there's other tinier aspects, but those are the main, right? So going back to the guy with the gun comes up to me. I have a gun in my pocket. I have knowledge of how to use it. I have wisdom to be able to time it right to kill him. And then I have the morality. Ought I kill him? Am I in the right morally to do so? Right? And there's other aspects like law and how your community looks at it, etc. Right? But the truth is, what comes at the forefront is your knowledge and wisdom and your morality. Ought I do this? Let's go to a plan B, because I probably shouldn't kill this person. Maybe I'll just shoot him in the leg. So that thought, if you ever shoot someone intentionally in the leg, you made a decision, and part of that decision making was based on your morality. Ought I do this? What ought I do? God has evidence in the Bible. Ought he do something or not? God is not a robot. I don't believe him to be a robot. So there's that. I believe he created us in his image. We look like God. That's what the Bible says. If you're Christian, you should believe that. God has morals, you have morals. God has an image, you have an image. God sees a bunch of sin in Sodom and Gomorrah, sodomy, and all types of sin. What ought God do? Well, God had knowledge and wisdom. Ought he just destroy and wipe out these people? He did. So what does that mean? That means it's a moral possibility. If you're a Christian and you think God's morals are ultimate, is there a realm of possibility that murdering basically sending a nuke down on Las Vegas because it's immoral, is that moral to do so? Well, if you're God and you can start doing that kind of weird stuff. But I'm trying to say that God's morals led him to murdering all of Sodom and Gomorrah, basically nuked them, turned everyone to a pillar of salt. And Christians would say that is moral. That is right. Okay, but you shouldn't do it. Okay, so it isn't moral. It was only moral for God. Okay, so it had nothing to do with morality for us. But we saw God's morality, and you want to strive to be like God's morality. So if you see Las Vegas and you go into the center, downtown Las Vegas, and you're seeing gay people, you're seeing all types of weird shit and immoral actions and scams and prostitution and all the shit that you would probably see in Las Vegas. That's just an example. Is it moral to just nuke the whole fucking thing? Turn it all into a pillar of salt? No, it's only moral for God. But you said there's objective morality. And if God's morals are what you believe to be objective, then that would be objective for you. See how there's no logic? I don't care if I am right. I don't care to disprove the other person. I want to get closer to what is right. And I will make a strong argument towards what I believe is right. And if you can come up with a counter argument, no gotchas. Gotcha. I don't like gotchas because that just tells you when you're saying, is killing people wrong? God in the Bible killed people. God sent angels to angels of death. Gabriel and Michael, the two most famous angels, were not angels that you wanted to see. If you saw those angels, they're going to go on a mass murder rampage. Is it moral to kill someone? Well, if you're God. But God has objective morality, and you want to follow objective morality, and God says to you, don't kill. And there's a different morality when it came to him, the angels, and you shouldn't kill, even though in the Bible it also says, in the tribes of Judah and stuff, to go out, rape and pillage, not rape, but like murder everyone, and obviously we know rape the women after you kill all the men was a normal thing that they did. The tribes of Judah, early Islam, they did it in all these religions, right? And said, go spread your seed. When they say go spread your seed after murdering everyone, what did that mean? That mean fuck them afterwards. Do you think after you murdered their husband, they want you to fuck them? Come on, guys. So what's morally objective when God tells you to do these things, and it's totally opposite of what you think is morally objective? So which one is it? So I can do this all fucking day, but I'm an hour into a video that could easily take 5 hours, easily. I mean, this is my favorite topic, but what I don't like talking about is objective morality. That's like me trying to debunk Santa Claus. I can give you all the evidence, all the logical consistencies, all day long. But you're going to come up with, well, at the end of the day, there was this one gotcha that was this. Murdering all the Jews on the planet is wrong, objectively. Because you can't come up with a beautiful scenario where killing all the Jews off the planet is right. Well, I think it's wrong. Well, your opinion doesn't matter because it's not objectively true. Yeah, it's an opinion. It's not going to be objective. It's an opinion. We need to separate objectivity and subjectivity. Period. Don't combine them. Morals are subjective. We can prove it in a 1,000 different scenarios all day long. We can measure it. We can objectively say moral compasses are found in the subject. Morality is found in the subject. It's not found in a rock. It's not found out in 3D time and space outside of the subject. Right? And I would argue the same thing about rights. I made this argument about rights. You don't have rights. So when someone says you don't have the right to do something, or you do, tell them they're full of shit. There's no such thing as rights. Where are they? Can you grab them? Rights are not objective. Rights are not in reality. And the same would go with your morality being objective. It's not there. You can't grab it. You can't measure it. But you can measure it in the subject. So let's find out what is real and not trying to do gotchas with Santa Claus being real, because that's what you Christians are doing. Gotcha. There's no beautiful world where raping's a good thing. Raping a child is objectively immoral. No, it's universally immoral. You need to get the logic right. It's universally regarded as immoral. Well, if it's universally immoral, then it's objective. No, it isn't. Just because the mass majority agree on something does not make something right. If everyone believes the sky is gray, and then I look up and I think that it's blue, you have the right to laugh at me or whatever and call me wrong. Oh, it's universally regarded as the sky's gray. But I see it's blue. Am I wrong? Well, if one of us is wrong, then one of us is not objectively true. At least, if not both of us. Anyway, there's no such thing as objective morality, but there is obviously objectively true things. And we can't conflate those. You can't say a gotcha that something that's universally accepted as an objective. We all agree to the 99 percentile, raping small children is wrong. That's an extremity. And in this video, we don't even have time to get to any gray areas at all, which totally destroys their logic. And then they have to pull the flat earth idea of, you know, like, I know I was wrong in this, but I gotta come up with a lie to fix the other lie, So then they say, yeah, your subject morality is real. And you can argue all day with moral philosophy on the gray area stuff. But when it comes to non-gray area things, it's objectively moral. It's not true, guys. And once you get past objective morality being make-believe, then we can actually get to moral philosophy. And we can find out with each other what's right or wrong. Just like I was saying, if somebody believed it was morally acceptable to rape someone because they got to spread their seed or whatever they got to say, I can come up and combat that. Also, if somebody does something that I believe is wrong, I can step in and do something. I have that power. You can't say one lie to cover up another lie, which is, you don't have the right to do so because you don't believe in my Santa Claus. You don't have the right to step in because it's just an opinion that they did something wrong. That's like saying, I don't believe in objective morality, therefore I'm not allowed to vote. How many atheists vote? How many? I would say a lot of atheists vote. And why do they vote? They have a right to vote. Why do they vote if it's just their opinion? Because it's their opinion. And there's power in opinion. I value the opinion of a 10-year-old autistic person. But if I was to have a conversation in philosophy, I would rather talk to a 50-year-old person who's been doing philosophy their whole life. Just like I said in my last video about experts. There are people that are more qualified, but it doesn't make them right or wrong about something. There are things that a 10-year-old autistic person can tell you, they can teach you something. But to say that that person's opinion doesn't matter is horseshit. Now you can be one of the type of people that don't like people and don't want to hear anyone's opinion on anything. Well, you know what happens then? You're stuck in your own mind. You're in an echo chamber in your own mind. And you're only going to regurgitate to people your nonsense. I'm not a repeater. I will take everyone's aspect into account. Everyone's opinion matters. But it doesn't mean that everyone's right. It just means that they have an idea. It has a thought. And to say that their thought doesn't matter is essentially doing this. Getting rid of their freedom of speech. It gets rid of their power. And I think that's wrong. I think the people should have the power and not the experts. The experts on climate change, their opinion matters and yours doesn't. And that's what they're saying, these Christians, when it comes to objective morality. Your opinion doesn't matter. Only objective morality matters. Your moral compass doesn't matter. And the truth is, if you're a Christian and you believe in the Ten Commandments, there's nothing moral about God telling you to do something or not to do something. There's nothing moral in that. I can tell a kid all day long, brush your teeth. There is a level of morality to it because you don't want to affect others in a negative way, right? First, you got to see the fucking yellow teeth. Then you got to then you got to breathe in their fucking onion breath all day and plaque, and that stinks. So there is a level of morality to it, but you telling someone what to do in and above itself is not moral. That's God saying, do this or you're sinning. And you do it not because of morality, it's because from your higher figurehead tells you to do something. God tells you to do something, you do it. Your parents tell you to do something, you do it. Now, if you had morality, and if morality was involved, you would question it. Moral philosophy, you question it. Why should I be doing this? See, I'm a why person. If somebody tells me to brush my teeth, I will ask them why. I'm not just going to do it. If somebody says you can't own firearms, I want to take away your firearm. The first thing in my mind would be, why? To get rid of that had nothing to do with questioning anything, so nothing to do with philosophy, and nothing to do with morality. Because if you're just going to blindly do something, your moral compass had nothing to do with it. And these Christians want to say the Bible is full of morality. No, you are full of morality. That's where your morals are, based on experience and environment. And yes, environment can be reading from a book that can alter your morality. So, when you say, when the Ten Commandments happen, you can't say that's a moral thing, a moral guidestone. You can't say that. And when you look in the Bible of God's commandments and God telling you this is a sin and this is not a sin, that has nothing to do with morality. That's telling you to do or not to do something. Period. Morals have nothing to do with it in that scenario. You either do it or you face these consequences. The same thing would apply when the government tells you, I wrote this on a piece of paper, now you got to obey it. All people need to give up 50% of their purse. I wrote it down on a piece of paper, now you must obey it. Does your morals have anything to do with the consequences? No. You do it or face the consequences. Your morals had nothing to do with law. And these lawmakers, we all know, tell you to do stuff which have nothing to do with morality. And in fact, just the simple fact that government exists means they are immoral. Anarchy is the epitome of morality. Anarchy is the epitome of morality. Because anarchy means no rulers. Anarchy means one does not have the right to rule over another. One doesn't have the right to be a higher class and to enslave and to tell what to do. Anarchy is basically saying it's only right to do something if it's contractual. You can't just shoot your neighbor's chicken. So, anarchy itself is based on morality. It's not based on what a ruler says to do or not, right? So, anarchy is essentially the only moral governing philosophy. What you ought to do and ought to do, or ought not to do, the morality of it is what influences the whole philosophy of anarchy. I encourage you to become an anarchist, and yes, you can be a God-fearing anarchist. You can. And you can believe, or not believe rather, in objective morality and still be a Christian. And I encourage you, all these Christians, to stop believing in Santa Claus, objective morality, oxymoron, doesn't exist, make-believe horseshit, flat earth basically. That's the flat earth of Christianity. right there. Objective morality. It doesn't exist. So hopefully you got something out of this. I can go forever in this video. You guys already know I can. But I hope you understand why anarchy is so important, because it's not a governing agent based on law and order and rulers. It's based on law and order from your community, from the individual, based on morality. What is right for your community? That's what anarchy is. Anarchy is the most beautiful, almost utopian principle. In fact, it's the closest to utopia that a society could ever be in, without laws holding you back and rulers. All right, that's enough for this video. Plenty more content. Let me know if you made it to the end of this video. Stay tuned for more content. Plenty more coming. It's Obex. I'm out.